back to my channel. So I want to talk about the last episode of 1,000 Pound Sisters. Before I get to that, I want to share an update. So this is actually kind of cold tea at this point, but at first, I'm not going to lie, I didn't believe this story when it first came out. But apparently, at the beginning of December, Tammy was allegedly kicked out of the house that she was staying in, that Amanda let her stay in, and she had to move in with her brother Chris. So like I said, I didn't believe it at first, but I've seen some very reputable news sources sharing the same exact story. Some of them even reported that Amanda and Tammy have not been on good terms for a while. Allegedly, they got into a big fight at Caleb's funeral. And there's a time and place for everything, and that just is not appropriate time at all to be fighting at a funeral. That's the last thing they should be doing, especially going through the grieving process. But I just wanted to report that to you guys because a lot of you guys have been sending this to me. And now let's talk about this last episode. So Tammy decided to have Chris drive her up to Ohio to visit Caleb and check on his progress with his weight loss. And she thought, okay, let me go pop in on him and maybe that'll help him get some motivation. And she thought if she went and visited him, that was going to help her feel better because Tammy's been going through it. She's been having to deal with Amy's drama. She's been having to deal with the family's drama. And now she's got to deal with Caleb's drama because it seems like he gives no F's about his weight loss because she goes to go visit him. And when she walks in his room, well, not walks because she's in her wheelchair, but when she strolls in the room, she sees a big old container with a whole bunch of snacks. And they're all sweets because Caleb has a sweet tooth. He's got some Oreos. He's got different snack cakes. And Tammy was so upset and disappointed in Caleb. Like, you can tell Tammy just wants to go off on Caleb, but she's already admitted in the past that he's super sensitive. So she has to joke around with Caleb just to try to get through to him because otherwise he's just going to shut down. She's like, oh, you need to get your butt home so you can get home with me. And she's just laughing about it. And Tammy feels like she can't just express her frustration with her man or he's not going to know how to take it. But you can only laugh your way through so many problems for so long before it's not funny anymore. And it's going on 2 months that Tammy has left rehab and Caleb has done nothing but go backwards. And at the same time, Caleb was Tammy at one point. We know how long it took Tammy to finally get her act together and get on the wagon. And I think Tammy's starting to realize how her family felt when she was going through it. And when she wasn't doing what she needed to do to lose weight and get healthy. It's hard to understand what you're putting people through when you're in the thick of it. I can kind of relate to that because you guys know my story. I was on drugs for years. I never understood the pain I was putting my family through until I got sober and had to deal with other family members using or relapsing. And then I was like, damn, that sucks. And it doesn't feel very good to know what I was putting these people through all these years. So Tammy doesn't have much room to talk, but here's the thing. Tammy was not dating anyone while she was struggling with her weight. So take the family out of the equation, and the person that Tammy was really only hurting was herself. It's not like she had a partner she was making empty promises to like Caleb is doing to her. And at this point, Caleb is doing nothing but holding her back. And I know that's a hot take, but that's my personal opinion. And it seems like when she married him under the impression that he was going to do what he needed to do so they could get out of the rehab center together as soon as possible and live happily ever after. But it's not like he's holding up his end of the bargain now. And I feel like he rushed to marry Tammy before she left because he knew he didn't have the best track record and his likelihood of having the motivation to do what he needed to do was slim. Because I went back on Caleb's Facebook and his older Facebooks, and since Caleb was a teenager, he has done nothing but gain more and more weight, and over the years just have more and more close to death calls. Because before Caleb passed, he had numerous hospital stays which were very concerning, which they didn't think he was going to make it out of. Literally back in 2017, 2018, he almost died back then, and even posted on his Facebook he didn't know how much longer he was going to have. It just seems like Caleb wanted to hurry up and marry Tammy before she finally realized that he was set in his ways. So Tammy made Caleb throw out all his snacks And even Tammy said out of her own mouth that even though she's joking around with Caleb, she hopes he's taking this seriously. And Caleb knows he's slowly starting to lose Tammy, so he's like, look, I gotta lay it on thick. So he decides he's gonna have like this little romantic dinner at the rehab for them and get Tammy's favorite foods, or at least what he thought was her favorite foods. And they sit down and he pulls out all this fried food. He's got fried mushrooms, fried mozzarella sticks, fried wings. And if you thought Tammy was annoyed at Caleb this episode, you haven't seen nothing yet compared to when he pulled out all that fried food. It looked like she just wanted to throw all the fried food in the trash like she did with all the snack cakes and Oreos. But I just feel like if Caleb is eating like this in a rehab center, just imagine how he's going to eat when he gets out and he has a lot more choices. And at this point, it seems like he's being a bad influence on Tammy. But I do kind of understand a little bit, because he's like, look, I'm in a small town. We don't have that many choices at all. And this is what I had to pick from. And he even put Tammy on blast a little bit, because he's like, here she is acting all upset, but while she was here in the rehab, we were ordering this food at least once a week and eating it, and she said it was okay as long as it was in controlled portions. So Caleb is convinced that he can have fried food as long as he controls his portions. But when you have a food issue like that, you have an issue because you cannot control yourself. And now that Tammy isn't eating, Caleb is going to eat hers and his part later. And Caleb said, look, it's not an issue. I can drop 25 pounds in the next 2 weeks and get the weight loss surgery. If I was Tammy, I would be giving him a deadline. I would be like, look, we've already waited 2 months on you. I'm going to give you another 2 months to get approved for the weight loss surgery. Otherwise, I'm good on you until you start taking yourself more serious. So Caleb realizes it's crunch time. Either I got to do this or I'm going to lose Tammy. So finally, it was time for Tammy to leave. And Caleb broke down in tears, and he said he feels like part of Tammy has already moved on and he's already lost part of her. And I think he's right. I don't like how it always turns into him making Tammy feel sorry for him after he messes up, because it comes across as manipulative. And it just seems like Caleb is trying to get Tammy to feel so bad for him that it clouds her judgment when it comes to him, because he's trying to make her feel like she's the bad guy for wanting better for him. You guys know what I'm trying to say. I suck at explaining things, but it's almost like he knows that Tammy is kind of over him at this point and over him not making any progress. So he's like, okay, let me lay on the waterworks when it comes to the tears, so maybe she'll feel so bad for me that she doesn't leave. And I think we're really witnessing the deterioration of Caleb, because it seems like both him and Tammy were breathing excessively hard in this episode. Like, they both need an inhaler at this point. And you could see him falling asleep. And this is the worst condition I think we have seen Caleb in by far. So Tammy has every right to be concerned. And I think Tammy knows that it's crunch time, and she can see for her own eyes that he's getting progressively worse. And then we catch up with Amy, and she started spiraling the other day when she walked into her house she shared with Michael and came across her wedding dress. So Amy thought it would be a good idea to destroy her dress with some paint, and I don't know why she thought that was a good idea. I think the best justice you can do is sell it and at least try to make a little bit of money off of it. I have a hard time believing that was actually Amy's dress, because I feel like if that was Amy's dress, it would have been a lot bigger, because we got to remember how big she was when she got married. I think this was just TLC's idea, and I've actually spoken with a source who's close with the family, and they told me that the family is nowhere near as close as the show portrays them on the show. Recommended that the whole family go work out. And Tammy always wanted to do a Zumba class, so she's like, let's go do some Zumba. So they all get together, Tammy, Amy, Misty, Amanda, and Chris, and they walk into this Zumba class, and it was a little awkward because it seemed like they walked in towards the end of the class. And the whole class was going in hard on their routine, and they were trying to keep up, but they were like 5-10 moves behind because they just can't move as fast as everybody else. And they were just sticking out like a sore thumb, but they're all enjoying themselves. But after a few minutes, Amy wasn't feeling it. She walks out of the class, and she sits right outside the class, and there's, you know, you can see through the windows, and she just sits down on the ground like a toddler throwing a tantrum. And so everybody's just staring at her like, what the hell is wrong with you, girl? And finally Amanda walks out, and she's like, what's up? And Amy explains that she's exhausted. She hasn't had a bowel movement in over 2 weeks. Hopefully Amy isn't pregnant, because all I could think of was the last 2 times that she didn't have a bowel movement and she was rushed to the ER and found out she was pregnant. So Amy kept explaining, look, I'm so exhausted all the time. The boys keep me up all night long. Gage stays up till 2 in the morning. And Tammy called her out and exposed her and said, look, Amy, you have sleep apnea. You have not been wearing your CPAP. You have not been taking your medication. You have not been taking care of yourself. Apparently, when you don't wear your CPAP machine, it makes you more exhausted during the day because your body's fighting to stay alive all night. And Amy was not having any of the advice her family was trying to give her. She just stormed off and said that she was going home, even though Amanda drove her there. Amanda said she was sick and tired of Amy's attitude and she has to learn to hold herself together. And Amanda said nothing but the truth. I know Amy's hurting and miserable, but there's no need to make everyone else miserable around you just because you are. And how do you think everyone else around you feels when you're constantly lashing out at them? Amy has to get off her pity party and pull herself up by her bootstraps. If you're not feeling it, then just stay home. There's nothing wrong with needing time to grieve your divorce. That is perfectly normal. I feel like Amy hasn't even really had time to process her emotions because she's been filming, she's been running around, dealing with the boys, and now she's just lashing out for no reason because she hasn't had time to process it all over the little things. It just seems like she's a ticking time bomb. And if Amy doesn't do something to get her mental health together quick, then I think her family needs to stage a intervention and try to make sure Amy gets some help with her mental health, like go see a doctor, go see a counselor, whatever she needs to do, because this is concerning and she cannot keep going on like this. Like, all of her acting out is literally just a cry for help, because you can tell that Amy is so depressed and miserable at this point. And it's not fun to watch her cry all the time. I want to laugh and be shocked, not feel depressed after each episode. So the family decided to come out after Amy ran out to the van and was hiding out there by herself. And they decided to try to have one last talk with Amy. And they all told her that she needs to get it together and take better care of herself and take her medicine and wear her CPAP. And Amy was like, look, I'm up all night because of the boys. Kind of what we touched on earlier. And Tammy called her out. And then Amy got mad and she slammed the van door shut. And then she opened it back up and was cussing out the producers, telling the producers they need to come the F on and grab the microphone before she throws it. And even Amanda stepped in. She's like, look, you need to stop talking crazy to people. Because not only is she putting herself and her family through it, but now she's putting the production crew through it. Then they showed a preview at the end of the episode for next week's episode, and Amy is spiraling again. So they finally make it to Pensacola. Looks like they're all having fun at the beach, but then they all try to go out to eat. And the boys, Gage and Glenn, they're not listening. They're acting up. They're running all over the restaurant. And Amy don't know how to handle it. She starts having another breakdown. And Amanda sits her family down and she's like, look, she's got to learn how to manage these 2 kids. I mean, it was her decision to bring these 2 kids in the world. And I understand Amy's struggle because I have 2 kids the exact same ages as Amy's children. And 90% of the week, I'm at home by myself with the kids. But I just feel like Amy, if she can't handle it, then you don't need to go out to eat. I know I can't go to restaurants. The past 20 times I tried to go to restaurants, I had to take my food to go within 5 minutes. And I think she just needs to sit down with production and say, look, I got these 2 kids. And I know every time Gage and Glenn are on an episode and on our screens, they get a payment, but it goes like in this account to where they can't get it till they're 18. If I was Amy, I would be telling production, look, you guys can take a little bit of money out of that or take a little money out of your budget for the episode and get them some daycare. Because there's a reason why people don't bring their kids to work. It's too much. And this is Amy's job. And when she's trying to film and go out in public with the 2 kids, it's just too much every single time. So she's got to get that figured out, or at least get them some daycare or bring a nanny. I guess it's a good thing that Michael was granted 50-50 custody, because she's already overwhelmed, and at least half the week now he has the boys and she can get a break now. And I saw back in the original court filing, she's trying to claim that Michael was too rough with the kids and he was pulling their arms and stuff like when they were acting up. And I think she probably went back and thought, oh snap, I don't want him to get no custody at all. I at least need a break and he needs to get a little bit of custody. And then she went back and ended up dropping those charges. But that's it for this video, guys. Let me know your guys' thoughts about everything in the comments below. Check out my lashes and cosmetics at AccordingtoAmber.com. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.